so, we'd like to invite you, as the music plays, to just close your eyes, relax, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Da नमः Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari 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 Namo Namaha Gam
tired of that one.
No.
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang is a Sanskrit word that means community of truth, which sounds kind of high and lofty. But really it's just any spiritual community where two or more people on the spiritual path of awakening and transformation come together to share their journeys. There is a satsang. There is a collective presence that's generated when two or more people join together on the path. And it strengthens everyone exponentially. So glad you're here. We come from many places around the world, from other continents and other countries, from various belief systems, spiritual backgrounds, teachings, and teachers. What we have in common is the awakening and the flowering of the heart in oneness with the divine and with all that exists. When we share that with someone, we have more in common than the other members of our own particular belief system or spiritual community. There's something that when we begin to awaken that bond us together in a really tremendous way. And the more we join together in this way, whether it's on the internet or hopefully also in your local community, you're gathering together with others to meditate, to pray, to share your journeys, to strengthen one another. As we continue to do that, it ripples out through the collective consciousness of humanity and makes it easier for others to awaken, but it begins to also affect the collective consciousness. It's contagious, just like negativity, depression, sadness is very contagious. Somebody walks in the room who's totally down and out, everyone feels it. When someone walks in who's in the light, someone who is awakened or awakening, it uplifts everyone. And that positive consciousness, that light, is infinitely more powerful than the dark or than lower forms of consciousness. So the more of us awaken and join together, the more the collective consciousness itself is being nudged toward awakening. And I think no one could deny the world needs that now. Humanity needs to awaken. We need to cease pouring energy and resources into a civilization of competition, conflict, and violence. And we need to begin to give birth to the new earth, which is rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. And that's why we're doing this. We do, throughout the satsang, we're flowing out to everyone something we call the flowering heart blessing. Yes, it has a Sanskrit name too, but who speaks Sanskrit here? Hridaya, Vikasa, Diksha, which simply means flowering heart blessing. And the flowering heart blessing has probably been around forever. There are many forms of blessing. Suzanne and I have experienced and have transmitted many different kinds of spiritual blessing over the past decades. This one, the divine revealed to us a little over 7 years ago and said, begin to give this blessing. And we dropped everything else and began to focus on the flowering heart blessing. The divine said, make sure to let people know that this blessing comes directly from the divine source, not filtered through any spiritual organization or hierarchy or master or saint or avatar. It comes directly from the divine, and therefore it truly can support you on whatever path you're on, rather than seeking to convert you and draw you into whatever path that particular form of blessing is coming through. And the divine said also, it's a gift of grace, and grace is a free gift, so don't charge for it. Give it away, and tell people who are interested in giving the flowering heart blessing that once they've received it, just once, they have been activated and initiated. All you need to do is invite the divine to flow through you, to pour the blessing through you to the receiver. You can do that in someone's physical presence with their informed consent, because it's going to affect them. It's going to begin to change things, and they need to know they're receiving a catalyst that begins the process of awakening in them or accelerates it. And then you can very gently lay your hands on the top of their head and just really get out of the way. Invite the divine to do its thing, and it just flows, because this is something the divine initiated and that the divine is doing. We're just instruments. You can do it in prayer or meditation at a distance without asking anybody's permission, really. Just hold that person or persons in your heart with compassion, with unconditional love, and invite the divine to flow through you, to pour into them the grace of awakening and transformation. And it can also be given through the eyes, which is related to what we do at the end of the satsang when we share the light blessing. The light meditation that we share at the end is an open eye meditation, where the light of awakening flows through our eyes and ignites the grace that's already resident in our hearts. So we'll talk more about that when we get there. Between here and there, we open it to questions and answers. Oh, we also will be doing much more focused and deep, intent blessings to seek grace and divine intervention for whatever problems or circumstances you brought with you tonight personally. But before we get there, questions and answers about the spiritual journey, about awakening, about divine union, about meditation, about anything relating to the spiritual journey. That seems to catalyze the divine itself to pour out inspiration to us, to share with the entire group that help all of us. So that's your part, other than to just be here and soak it up, is to ask the presence if there's something in your heart that you might, well, I see it's already flowing, so here we go. Oh, and also, thank you for those who gave us likes and loves up there. If you're on Facebook Live, if you give us a thumbs up or a heart or one of those other cool little emojis, then we'll see your name at the end after we're finished tonight, and we'll send you special hugs and blessings. If you're on Vimeo or LinkedIn, you'd have to enter a comment in the chat, which would also then let us know that you were there and see whatever screen name you're using anyway. Let's see what we've got. So Jennifer writes, thank you for hearing and listening and obeying, if you consider it that, in following the divine instruction and sharing the gift of the Flowering Heart blessing. Well, you're welcome. As actually, it's our joy, it's our privilege to say yes. I like the way you said listening and obeying, if that's how you consider it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with obedience to the divine, but it's really just consenting. It's just saying yes. When the divine whispers, when the divine beckons us, we just say, take me, I'm yours, yes. So it's a much more romantic thing than obeying, right? I think.
I've been doing a lot of deep dive meditations on not my will, but thy will be done the last few years. And because I think those times that we're living in require a tremendous amount of surrender of our own will, our own ego, our separate self, our smaller self. And the more that we can surrender and allow the divine presence to guide us and lead us, the easier our lives get. I mean, we just get in the way so much. It's crazy. But thank you for the thank you. And thank you for being here.
Indeed. Thank you for consenting to your journey of awakening and transformation. It's the greatest gift you could give the world, is to say yes to the presence. John writes, for whatever it's worth. Well, that's an interesting way to start. for whatever it's worth, in reference to my comment on reincarnation, it was made out of frustration. I know nothing of it, but it seems to be fear-based. My experience of the divine is that there's absolutely nothing to fear. If anyone has something more interesting or pressing to talk about, Please bring it up. Okay, we're in agreement. There's nothing to fear. That's right. Fear is often, generally, it's linked to the emotional charge that we experience when we're running away from something. And there's no need to run, and there's nowhere to go, and there's no one to run, and there's nothing bad on its way. I mean, when it comes to the divine, it's all good. I don't even remember your comment on reincarnation. It must have been a previous week. Do you?
Previous life.
Maybe it was a previous lifetime. And we forgot it already. So, I mean, if you want to bring that up again, feel free.
I've found that, you know, if I'm experiencing fear, it's some kind of a charge, like Michael said, that we're running away from, but it's like, what is it about me that I feel like I need to set right in the world, with the divine, with others, with relationships, that's bringing up fear about reincarnating, you know? So that's a deeper dive that you could go into and meditate on.
I mean, John, frequently you remind us that there's nothing to fear. And that's a wonderful realization, actually. And as Suzanne was talking, I was like, why do we fear? Part of it, I think, is fear of, especially in religious circles, there's a fear of judgment. Mm-hmm. And in spiritual circles, there's a fear of what kind of reincarnation I might get. Or am I stuck here? Do I have to keep coming back to planet Earth over and over and over again until finally I'm liberated and I can fly free? All that is rooted in fear. Where do we get that anyway? Because the divine doesn't judge us. The divine sees us, discerns all of our foolishness and idiocy, and with total unconditional love, without any distance at all, sends to us exactly what we need to grow, and in those areas where we may have been stumbling. But I think it points to the unhealed relationship that many of us have with our parents, with parental figures, with authority figures in our childhood. And probably a lot of us experience judgment from one of our parents or both of them, from adults around us, from teachers perhaps. And so that was our first experience of a higher power. For instance, a child, an infant, their first experience of the divine presence, I mean, barring a mystical experience, which Paramahansa Yogananda had in the womb. He saw the light and met the divine presence in the womb and remembered it after birth, which is remarkable. But most of us, our earliest experience of divinity is what flowed to us through our mothers. I mean, our mothers gave us birth. Our mothers nursed us, fed us, and so that was our experience of a higher power. And our fathers, very important as well, to feel secure and loved. And I don't want to stereotype the role, but where there were problems in those relationships, they carry on into our adult life. Some of the teachers that we spent time with in India felt that where there was a block in the flow of prosperity, that it had to do with an unhealed relationship with the father. I don't know about that. I would think the mother would be very important there, right, because of the nurturance. But we learned that on the spiritual journey, it's very important to heal those relationships, those wounds that we have, because we may have internalized before we could even think. We were just infants. I like to tell the story of a toddler who's coming home from the grocery store with its mother and sees an ice cream stand and says, "Ice cream! I want to get me an ice cream cone." And the mother says, "No. We're going to eat soon, it will spoil your appetite." And we cry, and she says no. But out of just an experience like that, we could internalize that the feminine principle of the universe is withholding its sweet nectar from us. That she's not going to give me what I want, which at that point is what I need, because I'm just a kid, and what I want is what I need. You know, and I don't understand no. I don't understand we're going to eat in an hour. What does that mean to me? I see ice cream, and I'm asking the goddess of my infancy, of my childhood, to open the door for that deliciousness to flow to me. She says no. But a lot of things happen like that in childhood, which is one of the things that we learned and we teach and practice, although we don't have, well, we now have a granddaughter, is to attempt in early life not to say no, because they don't understand why. Don't do that. No, stop. Instead, we use the redirect. Oh, look over there. Let's do this. Let's try this. This would be fun. But we've all heard a lot of no. No, 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 no. You must not. Don't do this. Don't do that. And that being our first experience of a higher power of authority and provision in our lives gets projected on God, on the divine. And we're scared that the divine, if the divine gets mad, may spank us. The divine doesn't do that. But the point is that whole relationship with higher power needs to be healed, or we'll find the spiritual journey to be quite scary. And healing it is it's like peeling the layers of an onion. It just normally doesn't happen just all at once, because a lot of that pain, a lot of that programming that happened during the first 6 years of our lives, we were not rational beings, we were emotional beings. So we had no way to understand it, categorize it, deal with it that way, but we didn't like the way it felt, so it got shoved into the subconscious or the unconscious mind. And there those programs continue to tell us, oh, God's mad at you. Oh, God's going to be disappointed in you. Oh, look how you've screwed up in this life, boy. The next reincarnation is going to be tough. And it isn't like that at all. In fact, what stands out to me from so many years in my life of the study of the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures, I've studied a lot of other scriptures too, but those in depth, I know I was going to say something.
Those in depth.
I must have hit a buzzword and the block went up. That the greatest saints, maybe not all of them, but Moses, David, St. Paul, we could go down the list. Some of the greatest saints in this the unfolding of the Hebrew and the Christian stories were people who were murderers. Murderers, adulterers, liars, persecutors. Moses was exiled from Egypt for murder, spent 40 years burning out his pride on the backside of the desert before he was in the right place to be the one that led the Israelites to freedom from Egypt and into the promised land. King David, one of the greatest saints of the Hebrew times, he was both an adulterer, and then to cover up his adultery, he had the woman's husband murdered. And that cost him. It did. He didn't get to build the temple. God said, you're a bloody man, there's blood on your hands. You're not going to build my temple, but your son will, Solomon. So things continued to go well with David, but he became the great man he became by being transformed. St. Paul had orders from the high priests to hunt down Christians, men, women, and children, to imprison them, to have them tortured, to have them executed. And then zap, the white light from heaven knocked him off his horse, enlightened him, and opened his eyes. First blinded him for 3 days, but he became an amazing prophet and apostle and saint. So I'm saying that because we tend to judge ourselves and disqualify ourselves from the possibilities. The divine can take a completely broken vessel and make it something amazing and awesome. So don't do that to yourself. Okay, John fills it in a little bit. John continues, someone said we have a choice whether to come back or not. And we know exactly what that entire life will be. Interesting idea. Yeah, I don't personally see it that way. Actually, we do, I think, have a choice whether we come back or not. The thing is, we don't know it's a choice. And we're so embarrassed at our life review that we see our whole life pass before our eyes in a moment of time. I mean, so many people have described that. I've had that experience in certain near-death experiences, also in mystical experiences, where I saw my whole life pass before my eyes. Now, if you've just left your body, and you're right at the door, the threshold of the light, with the divine presence fully unveiled in front of you, and your whole life plays in front of you, most people are very embarrassed and they go, oh gosh, please don't judge me. And the divine very kindly says, do you think you could have done better? Well, of course I could have. He pulls the lever, the trap door opens, zoom. So even then, the person chooses to, they don't even know they're choosing to return.
Right.
Although I remember begging the divine. The first time I had a life review and saw the light, I went, give me another chance. I'll do better. I promise. Just give me another chance. So here we are. That's not the only reason we're here. We're here to help and to serve. But yeah, as for us knowing what that entire life will be, that's possible for some beings. And I don't know if they know everything, but even an enlightened, God-realized master like Paramahansa Yogananda, he knew he was here for a purpose. He knew that the divine had blessed his life and he was here for some God-given purpose. But I think that everything that happened along the way was a surprise after surprise after surprise. It'd be kind of boring to see it all at once.
Yeah.
And then you have to forget it, because babies come in like clear, tabula rasa. But it is possible that there is a certain level on which certainly more awakened beings could see what that life entails. Especially if it's an awakened being that's coming back to render the service of a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is an awakened being that chooses not to leave the world and go into nirvana or into the light, but to continue presence in this world on earth, to keep reincarnating until all sentient beings are free, because we're all one. So, in a way, they know that's a tough gig and they've chosen it. But I still don't think even most bodhisattvas really know the entire story. Because that would also be like fate. Everything's engraved in stone. And really, destiny is like a piece of clay. We get to play a role in molding the future. There are many possibilities.
I don't think I would want to know what's next to come, because then I would be too preoccupied with the future instead of deepening in the now, in the present moment. And that's where you start to see all of life's richness and gifts and miracles and synchronicities and coincidences.
And you see the law of sowing and reaping at work. This is the world of karma. And we learned very quickly that we reap what we sow many times over. So when we're kind and forgiving, boy, that's nice. When we're reactive and angry and lash out, bad stuff happens. And it's the choices that we make and the actions that we take in the present moment that determine which way this timeline is flowing. So we have a lot of freedom there.
We do. And responsibility. With freedom comes responsibility to make the best choices that we can in the present moment, but not to beat ourselves up if it wasn't the right choice for us, because we can only do the best that we can in our current state of consciousness. Michael and I have been going back and rewatching movies from like the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's interesting to watch them from a different state of consciousness than we were in back in the 90s and the 2000s, 2010, even some 80s movies. It's fascinating because the way that I see things now is totally different than it would have been 20, 30 years ago.
Yep. So John continues, I had no review, just being in the light which wiped out the past and being pure perfection, reborn.
Nice.
That's great.
Beautiful.
And I've had that experience as well. And it's amazing how you can go into the light and you can reemerge here just all clean as a whistle and white as snow. And I don't know about you, John, and still screw up. But that's how we learn. That's how we grow. We don't learn by making perfect decisions, because then we're just affirming what we already knew. It's when we make mistakes and we get to adjust and experiment and try something different and have that conversation with the presence about how could this have worked out better, and the divine says, here, let me show you. So growth is ongoing. Great. That's very, very unexpected and nice. Are there any other comments or questions? Yeah, life still happens. Yes, it sure does. Sure does. Yep, as Michael Franti says, life is
amazing, then it sucks, then it's amazing again.
I hope those lyrics aren't copyrighted. I know he wouldn't mind. All right. Any other questions or comments anyone would like to share while the mic is open?
Ma'am?
Not at the moment. We'll wait just a couple more minutes, because it takes a couple minutes before we do anything, before it actually comes through. There's a 20-second buffer or something. It's kind of weird. What else? Got anything on your mind? Have you got a mind?
It's diminishing lately.
It's lovely.
It is lovely. I used to not be able to quiet my mind at all during the day, and even at night, and just spill over into action-packed adventure dreams, and it's been nice to have it quiet.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the quietness of the day, You observe a lot more, feel more, see more, experience more.
I was reading a meditation, a teaching that someone shared online the other day, how over 95% of all substance in the universe is dark matter. And we don't see it. We don't, we thought space was empty. As it turns out, between stars and galaxies and universes is this space, which is not empty. Over 95%, I think it may be a lot more than that, of all substance in the universe is in that space between thoughts, that space between breaths, the space between stars and planets and galaxies. It's all full of light. You don't see light when it shines through a dark space. That's why when we look up at the sky at night, it looks black, except for the stars and planets. But when the moon's very bright, we only see that light when it hits something and reflects. And that's the way light is. You don't see light traveling through space, but the universe is full of light. And this particular teacher was likening the the Lord Shiva, the destroyer, to black holes. That black holes are portals that draw the visible matter and transform it and return it to dark matter, dark space. And that there are also light holes. Light holes are manifestations of Brahma, the creator, that's taking the dark matter and transforming it and blasting it out and radiating it into the visible light world that we see. And Vishnu, the sustainer, is the one that keeps it all balanced, stable. Kind of nice. Yeah. Well, okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think it's time to dive in. Unless anyone comes up with something really quick. We do have time. Alrighty. So, let's close our eyes and open our hearts to the Divine Presence who dwells within us at the center of our being. In fact, the Divine Presence is the center of our being. The presence within is our sacred divine self, our true nature, our true self. We all share one being that is expressing itself through all of the galaxies and the planets and the universes and through almost 8 billion weird human beings. We're all different, and yet we are sharing one conscious being together. Awakening is dissolving the illusion of separate beings, separate existence, and awakening to the direct experience of the one being, the one presence, the one awareness that shines through all that is. This presence is your center. You could call it the Christ within, you could call it God within, you could call it the Paramatma or the Atma. There's so many names for the I Am, for the presence within. Know this, it loves you unconditionally. This presence is pure love. It holds no grudges. It is not judging you or holding you at a distance until you become holy enough or virtuous enough to deserve to experience its touch. In the presence, we all live and move and have our being like an infinite ocean in which we're all floating. This presence yearns to free you from suffering, to fill you with light and joy and peace and abundance on every level of your being. It's all powerful and all wise, all knowing, knows exactly how to give you the awakening, how to transform you in grace. It doesn't really need our help. It just needs our consent. So just say yes in your heart of hearts to the presence and receive the flowering heart blessing to awaken, to transform you, to draw you into the center in oneness with all that is. There's nothing for you to struggle with, to try to do. There's nothing to do, but just let it be. with our eyes still closed, imagine that we're sitting in a circle together. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, facing the center of the circle. And invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through you right now, to flow through you to all the others sitting in the circle, knowing it's flowing through them back to you. Picture the beautiful blue planet Earth as a globe, a living globe in the middle of our circle. Let us invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through us to the planet Earth. Flooding this living planet with life and light, spiritual light, to bring healing. Let us take a strong intent for the presence and the flowering heart blessing to awaken the hearts of all human beings on planet Earth. To awaken within their hearts unconditional love, inner peace, and awakening into oneness. Let's take a strong intent for the divine presence to melt out of the hearts of all human beings violence, that wars may cease to the ends of the earth, that all the creatures on this planet, plant, animal, human, spiritual, may all live together in peace and harmony. Just keep focusing on and gazing at least one of our eyes all the time. There's nothing else for you to do. During the light meditation, Suzanne and I are engulfed, flooded with the presence, and it begins to pour through every fiber of our being, especially through our eyes, the doorways of the soul. As you keep looking, the light streams out of our eyes, in through your eyes, into your spiritual heart, causing the flames of divine love and awakening and spiritual transformation to burn ever more brightly within you. Just allow it and keep looking. There's nothing else to do. meditating as long as it feels nice to you. You could also lie down nearby in Shavasana, which is to lie down on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open and turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve in the presence in gratitude. We love you.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until the next time we meet, know that the divine in us beholds the divine within you, and we bow